Well, we're finally talking about it. Finally talking about mental illness and how common it is and how it touches each and every one of us in a friend or a neighbor or a sister or a brother. We've made progress, but what we need to do today is we need to talk about how we can help all those desperate parents who are trying to find services for their children.
You hear the stats about the risk of suicide, but they mean something different when it's your own child. It's unimaginable that your child can be in so much pain and you can't alleviate their suffering. You want to keep them safe and do everything you can for them, but there are so many unanswered questions. Questions like, how do you get them the help they need? Why is this happening? And how can my family survive it?
Thank you for calling Parent Lifeline. Amelie speaking.
Thousands of parents have called us over the years on our helpline and come to our support groups, all asking these very questions. So we know how challenging it is for them to care for their struggling child. But we also know how powerful it is when they get the information and the support and the tools they need to help their family. It can completely change the trajectory for a family. They can flourish again. So that's what this project is about. We've brought together parents with lived experience and youth with lived experience and experts in suicide prevention to help package together the practical information and the hope that they need to help their struggling family.
Often people kind of tiptoe around the word suicide and the emotions it brings, even for people who have never experienced it or know someone who has experienced it.
The number one hurdle in suicide prevention is stigma. We don't necessarily see it in full force, but it influences how we ask for help. It influences how we offer help or how we get help or even how we help and how we respond or don't respond. So when we look at that, we need to be sensitive to our young people when they're not, the likelihood of them coming right out and saying, I need help is very low. They're going to put out other invitations that we need to be sensitive to so that we can respond.
I think that was my struggle or barrier, was actually telling my family that I was unwell, because I didn't really even know how to comprehend that as a young adult, a young child.
You do know your kid, so when your kid isn't quite as recognizable as they once were, there's something off, trust your spidey sense, trust your gut, that maybe this is a sign or a symptom or a signal.
So if somebody's saying, well, it doesn't matter anyways. Okay, wait a minute. Why doesn't it matter? You know, that could be innocuous, or it might be indicative of something bigger. And you may need to probe a bit. You know, sometimes when people put out statements like that, they're thinking of suicide. Are you thinking of suicide? Ask the question directly.
Communication is super important. Maybe tough in the beginning, trying to figure out what to say, how to say it.
When people think about ending their lives, at some level they're feeling disconnected. They're feeling disconnected from the people in their lives, or they're feeling disconnected from the things that give them purpose, hope, belonging, or meaning. So communication is one way that we can help reconnect to our loved ones.
As parents, we deal with all sorts of crises with our kids. Where we're a bit at a loss is how to deal with a mental health or a behavioral crisis where our kid is not recognizable as the kid that we know and love. And the first time that happens, we're clueless.
If a family is worried that their youth is feeling suicidal, if it's a crisis, they can always call a local crisis line, or they can call Kids Help Phone, and they'll then direct you to the appropriate crisis services. Other options include going to your local children's emergency room and letting them know that you're concerned about suicidality. If it's not an acute crisis, then it's a bit easier. You can always go to your family doctors, you can go to the school, ask their social workers, ask a teacher. Most other people will know a bit about what sorts of services to get started with to plug you into the system.
I think it's really important to recognize that not every crisis means that there's going to be a death or a suicide attempt, that it's a crisis. Generally, it's going to include huge emotions, and those huge emotions are going to come out in huge language or voice or behavior or threats. And as a person who's journeying with the person who's in crisis, yes, you're scared out of your wits about what the outcome might be, and we need to stay in the moment. And I think it's really, really important that you not go into crisis to the same degree, because then it just becomes a tornado.
It is a time-limited event. It doesn't feel like that when you're in it. When you're in it, it feels like it's just going to suck you into a black hole forever. And so one bit of advice for parents is to somehow find a way to ground themselves and remember this is going to pass.
I'd say that every crisis is temporary. It may feel really rough in the moment. It may feel chaotic. But if you have the right system in place, the right support system in place, knowing that you could just really ride the wave and, surpass that mountain, and that it's going to end soon, gave me hope mostly, yeah.
Visit the resources on Pleo's website at pleo.on.ca for more information on this important topic. And please reach out, because you know that together we can do so much to help our families move forward.